Can a £100 guitar actually be any good? Today we're taking a look at the Fazley Tempest 90, which is exactly that from Bach's music. We're going to have a look at the good points, the bad points, and see if it's actually worth it. Let's go ahead and take a look. Obviously, the first thing that you will notice is that glorious roasted maple neck. Roasted maple used to be something that you would only see if you were hitting those upper price points. Nowadays, roasted maple is becoming more and more accessible, with companies like Harley Benton, Jet and Fazley bringing out roasted maple options. The neck boasts a satin finish, which is really nice and comfortable, and doesn't give you that horrible sticky feeling that some gloss poly finishes do. The nut is a Graphtec tusk nut as well, which is a really nice feature, especially at this price point. The board radius is 9.5 and the scale length is 25.5 inches, which is par for the course for a Fender style guitar. It says in the specs that the profile is a C. It's quite slim feeling, but is incredibly comfortable. Now, I'm fairly confident that this guitar is worth the price for the neck alone, and after doing a little bit of research, I am certain. Partscaster.co.uk are doing a nitro satin finished roasted maple neck with incredibly similar specs to this for £129. So with that nitro finish, it is a slightly higher spec, but well within the same ballpark as the Fazley, and that is only for the neck and not a complete guitar. I have my suspicions that I know why this is the case, but more on that later. This guitar has 22 medium jumbo frets, and I think that might be my fret of choice. Having 22 frets gives you access to 3 full octaves if you give it some beans on that high E string. The fret leveling on this, I have to say, has been really consistent, and I've not noticed any high spots or any dead zones on the neck. I will say, for full transparency, I have noticed some slight tool marks on some of the fret ends. That's not to say there's any sharpness on the fret ends, I've not noticed any of that. It just doesn't quite look as nice cosmetically. The fact that the neck isn't laden with flat spots and sharp fret ends at this price point is quite frankly miraculous. Body is made of basswood and is a high gloss poly finish. I've got to say the consistency of the finish is actually really good. I've not noticed any colour inconsistencies or blemishes across the finish. Basswood doesn't tend to be your tone wood of choice for Fender style guitars, but actually tonally it's quite neutral. Ibanez often opt for basswood on their RG models and their Gem models exactly for this reason. It also boasts a cutout at the neck joint to the body. To me, this kind of feels more decorative than it does functional, but it's a nice gesture and it makes the guitar look kind of cool. So the hardware is clearly one of the points where they save a little bit of cash with this one. The bridge is a modern 6-saddle bridge, which from a design point of view is functionally better than the 3-saddle one. Come at me, but you know it's true. With 6 saddles, you can set individual height and intonation. That being said, I do know that people tend to prefer the vintage 3-saddle bridges, especially those brass ones to give that traditional tele tone. However, on a cheaper instrument, having that adjustability seems to be the better option. The tuners. They're smooth enough, but they do feel like they've got some play in them. To be fair to them, they do hold tune, but they feel cheap. Much like the bridge, it is functional, but not much more than that. If I were going to be upgrading this guitar, the tuners would be the first place that I start. As with most guitars on a budget, the pickups are the weakest point. Like most cheap ceramic pickups, they feel spongy and lack clarity and definition. The bridge pickup tends to lack that snap that you get with a tele bridge pickup. Likewise, the neck pickup is muddy and muffled. To my ear, it sounds more like a cheap humbucker than it does a P90. Cheap ceramic pickups are often a way that manufacturers save a buck or two in the manufacture process. There is no surprise that that has been the case here. And to be fair, no judgment from me, it is keeping the price of this guitar incredibly low. On the topic of keeping costs low, let's talk about the electronics. Much like the hardware, it is functional but not refined. It is exactly what you would expect in a guitar of this price point. The volume and tone pots are more like an on-off rather than a gradual taper that you would expect on a quality pot. The switch is almost certainly one of those cheap PCB style switches too. In its defense, it all works fine, it's just not very refined. Once again, this is a thing that could be changed without great deals of effort. I think Backshop have been really intentional about how they spec these. The highlights of the guitar are the body, the phenomenal neck and the fretwork. Conversely, the things that are lacking are the pickups, the electronics and the hardware. All of those things are things that you can switch out easily. So Backs have made this a really solid base for modding and not poured all of their resources into the things that you'll easily change anyway. In its defense, it would make a pretty decent first guitar as well. The hardware and the electronics aren't groundbreaking, but they are solid and they work. This guitar was kindly lent to me by one of my good friends, Adam, and Adam plans on modding this when I'm done with this demo. If you want to see what this guitar is like with all of the cheap bits taken out, make sure that you subscribe to this channel because I'll be doing a follow-up video. If you want to see what I thought of a really similar spec guitar, the JS400 by Jet, there is a video showing on screen now. Thank you for watching and I will see you again on the next video.